after 8 former Indian Navy personnel were handed the death penalty in Qatar. The Foreign Ministry has called the judgment shocking and stated that it would not comment given the confidential nature of proceedings. However, the MEA has assured that it would contend the judgment. The personnel who were in fact taken and were now sentenced to death penalty include decorated officers who once commanded major Indian warships. They were working for Al-Dahra Global Technologies and Consultancy Services, a private firm that provided training and related services to Qatar's armed forces. Now, they were initially detained on August 30th, 2022. Qatar had framed charges under suspicion of them working as spies of Israel. And they were, of course, as I stated earlier, employed at the Al-Dahra Global Technologies. But joining us on the broadcast to discuss more is Ambassador Prabhu Dayal. He's a former diplomat. Good afternoon, sir, and thank you for joining us on NewsX. Now, the individuals, the former veterans who were in fact sentenced to the death penalty, they have been charged as spying for Israel. Now, there is turmoil in the Middle East. Do you think the timing of this is merely a coincidence? And if not, what exactly is Qatar's ploy?
Well, good afternoon and thanks for having me on your show. I have also been deeply shocked and troubled when I heard this news yesterday that 8 former Indian defense personnel who were being tried in Qatar have been sentenced to death. Now, there has been no statement from the Qatari side as to what exactly the charges were, but I have seen reports that they were accused of spying for Israel and they were passing on secretive information pertaining to Qatar's attempts to acquire high-tech submarines from Italy. Now, why is it so shocking? Firstly, because these are highly decorated Indian officers. As you said, one of them had commanded Indian warships. So these are not the kind of people who would do any sort of hanky-panky. You're right. There is something to do with the timing. There is something to do with the timing. Of course, they have been in detention for over a year, since August 22 last year. But the Indian embassy in Qatar had consular access a few times, and the case was under trial. And I think they were sort of generally the understanding that they would be released because there was nothing to indicate that Qatar was going to take such tough action as to sentence them to death. Now, certainly there's a connection with recent developments. India, in the perception of Qatar, Iran, and some other countries, is seen as a country which is close to Israel. Our relations with Israel have developed. And after the Hamas terror attack against Israel, our Prime Minister had said that we stand with Israel. Of course, he meant it in the context of the terrorist attack, because we condemn terrorism everywhere. But some countries have taken this amiss and interpreted it as a sign that India is with Israel in this conflict and that therefore India is against Hamas. So there could be some connection because the timing coincides with the developments in the Middle East. But we have to see what to do now. We have to rescue these 8 senior Indian retired naval officers. We can't let them be executed. I think we should follow a 3-course strategy. Firstly, we should again seek consular access and reassure these 8 officers that we will do everything possible to get them out from prison and have them returned to India. Because they would be going through terrible mental trauma. And we will also, through consular access, be able to find out some information which may be pertinent. Secondly, we will have to go on appeal, we have to engage the best possible attorneys, and we should file an appeal in the next higher court and see that the evidence which is being cited in this case is demolished. We should be able to completely annihilate that evidence, because I'm sure that this evidence is fabricated and it has been made possible to the court through the efforts of the Qatari intelligence, and that the courts will not share what this is. But nonetheless, we should press that this should be made public, and we should be able to demolish this evidence. Thirdly, if the appeals court does not listen to what we have to say and goes ahead with the sentencing, I think we will have to request the ruler of Qatar to pardon them and to send them back to India. So we have to make sure that these 8 retired naval officers come back to India as soon as possible. I would even suggest that even before the appeals court starts hearing, we should make an appeal at the highest levels in Qatar and request the ruler to send them back, and point out that we just don't believe that these 8 naval officers could have had anything to do with spying. We don't do these sort of things. So I think that it's very important we should put our heads together at the highest levels in India and see what we need to do to get them back.
So, speaking of India's stance, India has of course commented on this issue numerous times, and they have in fact stated that they are looking out for these officers and that it is a priority for India to do so. But multiple bail applications were sent and all have been rejected. On April 6th this year, India has stated that it will not interfere with Qatar's legal process, but after the sentencing, India has stated that we will be exploring all legal options. But back to Qatar, do you think Qatar has a motive and will try to use this, for leverage and to gain something?
Well, it is not unlikely that Qatar is trying to put pressure on us for some objectives which it is trying to achieve. You have a very valid point in this regard. Now, we will have to impress upon the Qatari authorities that we have a very close relationship with Qatar, that about 7.5 lakh Indians are working there. We have a thriving economic relationship, especially in the petrochemicals area, and that we should not endanger this, because we have to make them understand that if they go ahead and execute our retired naval officers, then there would be a huge backlash in India, and it will not be possible for us to continue to maintain this sort of a close relationship. Therefore, we should point out that any action which they should take should be properly analyzed and its pros and cons considered. I repeat, we have to put our heads together and work out a strategy regarding what we need to do, and we should do everything possible to get these naval officers, retired naval officers, back to India as soon as possible.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.